We want to talk now about COVID and how the city will recover. We'll start with a video question from someone you may recognize, Portland chef Gregory Gourdet.
With over 100 local restaurants permanently shuttered recently due to the economic hardship this pandemic has placed on our city, and an estimated 85% of all restaurants closing permanently before we are out of this, what plan do you have to make sure that all these amazing restaurants, community job providers, pillars of our community, and such important parts of our statewide food chain, what plans do you have to ensure that they can reopen safely, they can reopen permanently, and they have a fighting chance for survival as we push our way out of this pandemic?
And Mayor Wheeler, you're up first.
I love this question, and I'm very proud of the city's response to COVID. Number one, we were early in taking steps to prevent the spread of COVID. We were the first administration to stand up an organization, a body, a coalition from the community to support both business as well as households. We were the first to put dollars out the door to support the resiliency of small businesses and create a small business relief fund. We were the first to put resources towards household support. Under the COVID recovery, $35 million went to rent assistance. $20 million went to supporting small businesses. Then we also, of course, changed our rules to let businesses like restaurants be able to thrive. We allowed people to quickly set up on the sidewalks. We closed streets where it was appropriate to do so, and we've just extended that opportunity going forward. So we're working with business owners and operators. We're listening to their needs. We're helping them to be flexible and resilient during the crisis, and we're going to work with them to make sure they get through to the other side. This is critically important to our city's success.
Thank you, Mayor. Sarah Iannarone, your response to Chef Gourdet.
It's so nice to see Chef Gourdet on something other than food television, so I'm so glad he could be here. You know, this has been such a hard time. The restaurant that I founded back in 2006 in my neighborhood closed due to COVID, in part because of a lack of clarity and uncertainty from every level of government about what they could expect, what the regulations would be, when they might be able to open again. There weren't clear guidelines in place from a very early time. Many small business owners don't have a lot of cash on hand to see them through hard times. And what I've seen through this is talking with the people who ended up founding APIRA, which is now OIRA, which is the Oregon Independent Restaurant Association, that's lobbying for things like to-go cocktails and the increased street seating that transportation advocates like me have been calling for years are finally coming to fruition. But I believe that someone like me who's connected to the arts and culture of the city, who understands you can't displace 30 food carts for a Ritz-Carlton and still keep your brand, we need to do better by our small business and restaurateurs.
Thank you. And Everton has our next question.
Ms. Iannarone, your plans, among your plans listed on your campaign website is for the city to invest in guaranteed income for Portland's most vulnerable people. What does that mean? How much should the city invest, and how will the city pay for that?
This is such an amazing effort put on. I believe there are over 25 U.S. mayors now signed on to the Mayor's Coalition for a Guaranteed Basic Income. And we've been working with national leaders on that front, including Mayor Tubbs of Stockton, California, who's leading on this. He's a young innovator. What they're doing is piloting small programs. They're allowing the community to decide who receives the funds and at what level. What we're looking at now is a combination of Black mothers, particularly in school districts that have high turnover, and also people experiencing homelessness who've had a hard time staying in permanent housing because of economic reasons. And so how can we come together as a community? There are plenty of wealthy people who could dig deep into their pockets or bring their very rich friends together from the philanthropic, public health, healthcare sector, business sector, and local government to make this happen. Test it out, see if it works, and hope that we can find some success here like other cities are.
If possible, I'd like to give you a couple more seconds, Ms. Iannarone, to talk specifically about the city and specifically how much you want the city to invest and where that money comes from, and who are you talking about? Are we just talking about people experiencing homelessness or other people around the city as well?
The way that other cities are implementing this now is by very small pilot programs where the community is coming together to decide what those frameworks are. Again, when we as leaders try to operate unilaterally and force policies down the throats of community, it doesn't work. We need to bring the community to the table to have this conversation about what needs to happen. I believe that our healthcare organizations, higher education can help us do the research, the philanthropic sector can help us fund it in the early days. We can also look at it as part of the COVID recovery. But what we need to look at is the cost of not doing more now to stabilize our communities, because unless we stabilize them, things like gun violence prevention,
I'm sorry, Ms. Iannarone,
we're never going to
out
make
of time,
progress.
but thank you very much for answering that. Mayor Wheeler, 45 seconds, what's your response?
Well, my response is it's an interesting idea, and there's a lot of discussion at the national level about a guaranteed minimum income. There's a lot of smart people backing it who believe at the national level it makes a lot of sense. I'm certainly interested in the discussion. At the local level, it's very problematic. Just from an economics perspective, if you create a guaranteed minimum income in just one jurisdiction, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have a lot of people moving to that jurisdiction very quickly to take advantage of that. So it's really a national discussion. I'm open to it. I'm interested in it. But at the local level right now, with a $75 million budget deficit and pressing, urgent, immediate needs, that's probably not going to be my top priority.